Welcome everyone, StealthyShiroean here, and today I'm bringing you my review of the Humble Choice bundle for February 2026. Following up the not-so-stellar first month of the year is, well, it's not a showstopper this month either, but there are definitely decent games in the lot. Before I get too ahead of myself though, let me know what you think of this month's bundle in the comments below. Be sure to check the timestamps for specific games, and stay tuned for my final thoughts in the end. Okay, let's get to the review. Starting off the bundle is Big Helmet Heroes, a hack and slash beat 'em up. There is a story that sort of falls off the rails pretty quick, so I won't even bother talking about it since that's not really the point of a game like this anyway. So instead, I'll just focus on the gameplay. In Big Helmet Heroes, you take control of a myriad of different heroes. At the start, you only have the Shepherd, but as you go through the levels, you can free new heroes to unlock for future stages, or replaying older stages. The heroes seem to be built around different types, like fast-moving dual-wielders, or slower but more impactful heroes with large weapons. Then each hero has their own special ultimate they can use, which is the thing that sets them apart the most. My favorites were the guy who could turn into a giant, and the laser beam guy. Throughout a level you can switch between heroes, but if you have a co-op buddy, then you could just play it in co-op. If I had thought about it beforehand, then I probably would have tried to play this with my wife or daughter, since I think co-op is really meant to be the intended playstyle. That said, I felt it was still enjoyable in single player. These aren't usually my kind of games, but I could see myself coming back to play it with someone else. Next up is Bus Simulator 21 Next Stop, a simulator game where you run a transportation company and drive buses. Oh boy. Yeah. No. This one isn't for me. I get that these simulator games tend to have a niche following anyway, but really? Why? I just didn't have that much fun with it. In a similar fashion to other games like it, Bus Simulator 21 has a kinda janky feeling that is attributed to the realism. Also, that uncanny valley of trying to create a believable environment in something that feels anything but. Although, I went into this expecting all that, so I guess I wasn't disappointed there. The game starts off with choosing a bus and then getting you to drive it. As someone who knows nothing about buses, I just wasn't that jazzed about being able to select which bus I wanted, or the many more that are on offer as you play through the game. At first, the driving felt really floaty, and that was actually remedied with changing the driving and braking from simplistic to realistic. It felt a lot better because the bus felt like it had actual weight to it. That said, I don't see the appeal of trying to drive around and follow traffic rules in a video game. I rode this bus like I was driving the bus from Speed. Well, except for all the things I ran into, so maybe I actually drove it like how I drive in Grand Theft Auto. That being said, that's exactly how you're not supposed to play this game. Because if you do, then you lose a ton of money. Which, that's boring. Oh, and I guess you could also be a passenger on your buses, which, wow, that sounds horrible to me given that I have to be on a bus a couple hours every day for commuting. So no thanks. Needless to say, I won't be coming back to this. SteamWorld Build is a city builder that plays it fairly safe but has some fun ideas thrown into the mix. Channeling an Old West aesthetic, you have to build up a community for a rusty bunch of steam-powered robots. The planet is dying and these robots need to mine in order to find old technology that will help them leave their world behind. So, the game itself plays out over two layers, being the city building and managing the exploration of the mine. Both of these work in tandem with one another as they rely on materials from each in order to progress. The city building follows a formula very similar to an Anno title. Citizens have needs to be met with ever-expanding production chains. Eventually, you can upgrade them to a higher tier of citizen that brings new buildings for progression, as well as more demands from your populace. Managing the mine offered a different challenge of making sure you have enough different specialized workers to continue exploration and exploitation of the discoveries found. You need to make sure that workers are supplied with better tools and machines to continually progress, which are created through production chains up above. The planet's instability can cause cave-ins, so building supports are also necessary. SteamWorld Build has a satisfying game loop and a charming atmosphere that I actually found myself playing past my hour with it. It seems to have many different maps, so anyone interested will have plenty of content. Squirrel With A Gun is one of those games I felt was only popular for its gimmick, so its namesake. And past that, it wouldn't have much going for it. And upon starting the game, that's exactly what I thought. I didn't care for the floaty platforming and thought the level design was kind of frustrating. However, that started to change once I finally got out of that intro level and was in a more open environment in the neighborhood. I found the free roam nature helped a lot with enjoyment because I could take the game at my own pace. Exploration was fun, trying to find acorn currency and the large golden acorns. Additionally, there's a ton of cute costumes and fur colors to unlock for your rodent protagonist. The currency is used at various stations to unlock guns and other things. It felt really good when I finally unlocked the little car he could drive around in. The whole thing felt like I was playing a light version of Grand Theft Auto, but as a squirrel. There's something oddly cute about a squirrel holding someone up at gunpoint. And disturbing, but hey. I really didn't expect to like this game, so it's a great surprise that I'd actually like to come back to this at some point. Also, I have to say that being able to use the gun to extend the squirrel's jumps is pure genius. StarVaders is what you would get if you slowed Space Invaders down and added in some more tactical options. And hey, I think I may have figured out how they got the name for their game. Anyway, StarVaders is a roguelite with turn-based deck builder combat. You control a mech trying to stem the tides of an alien invasion.
Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
And if you lose a run, the time is turned back and you get to start again. If any of you immediately started thinking Into the Breach, then I think you'd be forgiven because I'm sure there's some of that inspiration there. While not every enemy move is completely telegraphed to the player, they almost always know what the enemy will do and have to plan accordingly. Every turn the player draws a certain number of cards and it has to spend them wisely. Every card creates heat, and if the mech overheats then it burns that card for the entire fight. Additionally, if the mech gets hurt, then it creates a junk card that gets thrown into the draw pile. Each of these cards lets the mech move on the board and attack at the enemies coming down the lanes. If they make it to the back 3 ranks, then they start creating Doom, which is a value that is persistent throughout your run. If it ever reaches 5, then the run fails and you start from scratch. Admittedly, this was pretty fun. I wouldn't say it struck me as something that I would play a lot of, but I did enjoy it. Actually, funny enough, it made me want to play Into the Breach again, which I actually like far more simply because of all the abilities are fixed rather than random from a card draw. Despite this, StarVaders is a fun game with the time I spent on. The next game is one that I had on my wish list for a while, being Core Keeper, a survival crafting game. On an expedition in the jungle, you find yourself teleported deep underground after touching a mysterious artifact. Now, you need to explore, find resources, and survive. Obviously, you start with the basics of getting beginner crafting tables up, like a workbench to create some starting weapons and armor. Food is also something that you need to worry about, so a cooking pot is good to have soon after. Players have to scavenge for things like berries and mushrooms, and then throw them into the pot to see what they make. I'm not the biggest fan of food meters in these games after Valheim kinda revolutionized the system for me. Luckily, it doesn't seem to be too big of an annoyance in Core Keeper. The gameplay loop felt really solid though. I was never at a loss for what I should be doing, exploration was fun and rewarding. I even faced my first boss in the hour that I played, which ends up allowing you to unlock new special items. So the pacing seemed really good, which can't always be said for survival games. Although, no idea if the pacing slows down considerably as you progress further, as is usually what happens in these kinds of games. I also liked the skill system that the game had, with the idea that the more you do the same thing, the better you get at it. It allows for you to be able to swap out and try things really easily for combat. Although I do wonder if there's a way to respec, or if it might be too punishing in the endgame if you suddenly wanted to switch to a different playstyle after playing a certain role for so long. Overall, I had a good time playing this by myself, but as these games tend to go, I usually only ever play them with my wife. So I definitely look forward to playing this again whenever we pick up a copy for her as well.
Do you legitimately imagine anything that cascaded out of that prompting, nagging mouth of yours could shock me? Do you honestly believe I could be shocked?
The penultimate game of the bundle is Date Everything, which is essentially a dating sim. Sorta. You start the game getting laid off from your job you just got, and then receiving a mysterious package from a hacker. In the package are special glasses that allow you to see the being that exists within your inanimate objects, like your bed.
We've been sleeping together so many years, it would be a little weird if you didn't know me.
Your magnifying glass that of course we all have laying around somewhere.
Very suspicious behavior, this not knowing.
Or your door.
No funny business. I don't want to see those spectacles being used for something untoward.
It's a wonky idea that is humorous at times and definitely strange. Although, you don't necessarily need to date everything despite the title implication. In the game world, DATE is actually an acronym for Directly Acknowledge a Thing's Existence. So when you use the glasses, you can do this and interact with your stuff. And they are referred to as dateables, which makes things confusing, but in actuality, you could just be friends. Or enemies if you prefer. Or yes, of course, try to pursue romantic relationships with all of your stuff, including the wrapping toilet.
You are wrong! Je knows you. You are the chatin, the kissless loser.
The voice acting of these different characters is incredible and has several voice actors you probably would recognize to help bring everything to life. One worry that I have is there seems to be about 100 different characters, which really makes me wonder how fleshed out some of these are. The concept is unique though, so if you want to try something that hasn't really been done before, then here you go. I don't really think it's my cup of tea, but maybe it could be something I return to when I'm looking for something different to play.
And so you leave your home for the first time in what feels like weeks.
Hey, are you listening? Hey! What the?
And with the final game of the bundle, we have Resident Evil Village, which I guess makes sense given that Requiem comes out at the end of the month. Being a direct sequel to the last game, we take the reins of Ethan Winters once again. For any who didn't play the last game, like myself, they give a helpful recap cinematic so you could understand a bit more of where things stand at the beginning of this game. Basically, he spent the entire 7th game trying to save his wife from crazed people, just to have her get shot and killed a bunch of times by Chris Redfield. Wait, what? Chris Redfield? You mean that guy from the only Resident Evil game I ever played, Chris Redfield? I thought he was a goodie, not a baddie. Well, yeah. Apparently he helped Ethan relocate to Europe, and then shoots his wife and takes his baby girl Rose. What a stand-up guy. Then, presumably, when his men were transporting Ethan somewhere, they get into an accident and Ethan wakes up in the middle of a forest with a village nearby after he walks some ways. He finds out that Rose might be here and in danger, and of course, protective dad mode is activated and he needs to save his daughter. So already, it's a compelling enough story to me, and immediately pulling at my heartstrings given that I have a young daughter myself. However, the game itself is actually really good in the hour I played. The atmosphere is absolutely top-notch, visuals are amazing, and presented in such a way that invoke cautious curiosity, as well as being believable with excellent lighting. The sound design is impeccable, and I was already on the edge of my seat just moving through the dark forest in the beginning of the game. Combat felt alright, but nothing amazing, but then again, I think it wanted to present Ethan as someone who isn't some superhero. Or at least in the beginning. Maybe by the end it won't matter when you have all these different guns with tons of ammunition. But the beginning was perfect for me. I definitely can't wait to come back to this game, but only after I play the previous one first. Or maybe just the entire Resident Evil series, since that's been something I've been meaning to do for a long while now. Okay, let's wrap this up and see if this bundle was worth it or not. I based my rating solely on whether I thought the game was worth playing on about an hour or so of hands-on gameplay. Also, I'd be grateful if you could please give the video a like if you're enjoying it, and subscribe if you want to see more video game coverage in the form of reviews, first impressions, and of course, these humble choice videos every month. And if you're feeling extra generous, then you could tip me via YouTube Super Thanks, or consider joining my YouTube membership. Every little bit goes a long way in helping improve the channel. Overall, this was another okay month for me. Objectively, I think it's pretty solid. Most of the games I played did seem fun, however, they're games that I wouldn't normally play, and I don't really feel that any of those games did enough to change my mind on whether or not I'd pick them back up anytime soon. It kinda sucks to have just another mid-month, but I guess that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Maybe for you this month was great though. Let me know. And with that, let's get to the final recommendations. In the must-plays this month, we have Resident Evil Village. Everything about this game scratched my horror itch. I realize that for many, this probably isn't something they care for, but I always like a good horror game. In the strong recommendations are SteamWorld Build and Core Keeper. SteamWorld Build was a fun and familiar city builder that added some extra elements to set it apart. Core Keeper had a great gameplay loop that felt well crafted to the point that it felt freeform enough for the player, but not so meandering that they would be overwhelmed. Following that are the weak recommendations, which are Squirrel With A Gun, Date Everything, StarVaders, and Big Helmet Heroes. While Squirrel With A Gun did win me over, it still had some jank to it that probably will not jive with everyone despite the fun concept. Date Everything is another game with a unique concept that, like the previous game, won't appeal to everyone, but was interesting enough. StarVaders is fun, and I'm sure deck-building roguelite enthusiasts will find a lot of enjoyment from it. Finally, Big Helmet Heroes offers a simple but fast-paced combat that seems like the perfect game for friends. And the don't bother with this month is Bus Simulator 21 Next Stop. For me, I think most of the simulator games end up here. They're not something I play, but I can't help but feel that many of them just aren't that high quality. It feels like the survival crafting genre until it had proper time to develop. Maybe simulator games are just so diverse that it becomes difficult to create a high quality and refined product. Not to mention, each type of simulation will have varying levels of an already niche audience. But I'm sure there are some people out there completely stoked to add Bus Simulator to their library. Do you agree with my thoughts? What games, if any, are you looking forward to playing? Let me know what your thoughts are, if there are any different recommendations you'd make in the comments below. I hope this video helped you in some small way, and if it did, then please consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, or whatever it is you feel like doing. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.